and welcome back. This is Inside the Artist Studio, and I'm Cheryl Gleason, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with artist Marsha Mason. Good morning, Marsha. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. So let's talk about you for a little bit.
Moi?
Yes. How long have you been an artist?
Oh, I think I've always been a creative person. Loved to play in the mud when I was little.
Nice.
My mother let me paint on my walls.
Oh, wow.
It was tremendous. And we had an art program in the school, so I just thrived on that. I still have the handprint that I made in kindergarten, and since then I've had handprints of all my women relatives. They hang in my kitchen. It's my women's hands in the kitchen.
Is that what those are?
Yeah,
oh my God, that
yeah.
is so adorable. Women's hands in the kitchen. I love that.
Yeah, and my hand fits just where my mom's hand is on the print. It's really cool.
What a great generational family tradition. I mean, that is really cool. And are they imprints out of plaster Paris?
Most of them are plaster Paris. That's the best. And I love plaster, just like the mud. And some of them are clays, different kinds of clay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you start calling yourself an artist? Was it after a certain event, or you thought, I'm good enough now that I think I can consider myself an artist?
I'm not sure when I started doing that. I've always called myself artistic, I think, or creative. But as far as branding myself as an artist, I don't know. I think of myself as a problem solver who has a lot of creativity. You know, it's this both sides of the brain thing. And even when I do an art piece, I think of it as a series of problem solving. So it's like more than that, just drawing on the right side of your brain thing, although that's so important.
Right.
To really see things and not let the left side go and say, oh, that's a tree. Let's make a ball on a stick.
Right. Now, did you ever take one of those tests that sort of measure how much left side or right side of the brain you are?
Yeah, and it's right in the middle.
I totally see that, because you are at times very linear. You're very good with linear problems and math and thinking in that way, but also creative. I totally see where you would land in the middle. I was very surprised. I landed pretty close to the middle, which at the time I took it kind of really sort of blew me away. I'm like, I must have fudged on some of these. So what mediums do you work in?
Oh my gosh. I just am completing a gourd lamp in a Moroccan style. It is so beautiful.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
I know. I just ordered a base for it. So it's gonna be nice. And then I've been making my own stamps, and some of those are in my current work. The Micro Masterpiece, one of them had it in. And then my latest, Philemon's Oeuvre, which was in the member show, had a couple of my stamps that I made myself.
That piece is, I love that piece. That piece is really energetic. I loved the colors. That was a great piece. Several people commented on that piece.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Philemon's Oeuvre Philemon is the word for loving, the Greek word for loving, a name, and Oeuvre is about your egg, your energy. So it's about that loving energy we carry with us.
Oh,
yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Do you find a piece? So if you're looking at a piece of art and an artist or the maker tells you the story behind it, does it make the piece more interesting to you, or does it change it all?
Oh, I think it's fabulous when you hear the story about a piece of art, because that way you can really connect with it and with the artist who made it. I think it's essential to to say what's going on, what was your process or what was your feeling. And yeah, it's that emotional connection that makes people love your art. It's not just eye candy, although I love eye candy.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Or candy in general, for that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially chocolate.
Yeah, chocolate's good. But yeah, to express that and tell the story is a good connecting thing.
So tell me about the first time you saw or experienced somebody connecting to your work and purchasing a piece of work.
Oh my gosh. I think the first time was when I had painted the American River near where I live.
Uh-huh.
And a guy came in who I didn't know, and he purchased the piece, and I was so excited I didn't even get his name or email so I could keep him on my list. And after he was gone, I went outside. I was just a little teary because, I mean,
it's emotional.
Yeah, my family and friends had liked my work and given me good strokes, but this was someone who didn't know me, and he connected with the piece, not me, and that was really affirming.
It makes such a difference, doesn't it? When, I mean, your friends can tell you how good they like something, but at times you think, yeah, you're my friend, so you're going to say that because you don't want to hurt my feelings, right?
Yeah.
I don't want somebody to tell me that something is good if they don't like it. How do you feel on that?
Oh, my gosh. What you're talking about reminds me of critiques. And I think it's essential that you have fresh eyes look at your work while you're doing them. I am in a group that meets every Thursday and has for decades.
That is so necessary for artists.
Yeah, it's accelerated my growth as an artist tremendously. And I hope I've contributed to the group too. But having the fresh eyes on your work, having people who are so good, they're knowledgeable. In fact, Kathy Young Ross, the library
Yes.
in which we're sitting is in honor of her, was the founder of the group, and she had an eye for what was wrong with your picture. Often it was values and composition. And she would put her hand up on a corner of the piece that was just so distracting, and she would say, now see, if I put my hand right here and how the whole picture comes together, if you just darken this space, and she was awesome. So
And I think
big
that's
believer in that.
a skill that artists need to learn.
Absolutely.
It's not something that you just it's exceptionally difficult to do that to your own work, although we all have to go through that process, but it can take 10 times the length of time to come up with the solution than if we have those other sets of eyes like you talk about.
It's so true. Yeah, it's just really good to get a lot of brains working together on that. And in this Thursday group, these are friends, and we critique each other's work. Now, some people have dropped out of the group because they just were so sensitive about their work. But for me, it's not like that. I am a landscape architect, and in school we always were critiquing each other's work. You can't be that attached to it. It's just something, it's out there. It's like in a marriage. You take the problem and you put it out here, and you both sit on the same side of the table, and you address the problem together.
Right.
And that's how art is too. If you get a critique group that's good.
A lot of people take it as really personal, that you're critiquing them rather
Yes.
than, and that's hard to get over. But I remember some, likewise, when I was in school at Davis, people left on Fridays crying and left the room because they couldn't handle what was being thrown out at them. And
Sure.
it is difficult to get used to,
It is,
right? But
yeah.
you got to have a thick skin to be an artist. It's not an easy road to take.
No, it's not. And it requires skills that you just don't want to acquire, like getting on social media and letting people know about your work. It's essential. And, in building our community of artists, it's really essential, too, that every artist gets out there and promotes what we're doing in our community.
Right. So what's your process when you think about, do you have an idea of a picture or something you want to do? Do you see something that you take a picture of and take it back to the studio, or do you just, what's your process?
Ooh, boy. I'm always trying new things. That's one thing I definitely do.
That is true. I've seen, every time I think I've seen you do something, and I'm like always amazed at the next thing that you do.
Yeah. I think I start because I have an emotional connection to something, unless it's a commission.
Right.
Yeah, my Kitty Giro.
I love this painting. This painting is probably one of my favorites, and it's probably because of the cat. But
yeah,
I also love the colors.
The cat would sit on the chair, and just stare, and yeah, how can you not love that? So,
right.
But I also did a series of teacup cards.
Tell me about those. I've seen them before, and they are so unique. And I love the fact that you put the tea bag, a fresh tea, in the slit in the card, so it looks like it's halfway coming out of the cup. How did those get started?
Well, I have a teacup collection that my mother inherited from her Aunt Amy. And Aunt Amy was a ceramicist, and she painted the most beautiful eyes on dolls and such, ceramic dolls. But I've inherited this collection, and I wanted to document it for my nieces and nephews, because when I go, the collection will probably not be a collection anymore. But since I've done that, I've heard from people around the country who say, "Oh, thank you for making these. I work in insurance, and I send these to people who've had something happen to them, and it means so much."
It really, I can totally see now that you say that somebody's been affected by some sort of tragedy or something, because they're very soothing, they're calming, they are serene, without being sappy sympathetic.
No, they're not sappy.
No, not at all.
They're
real. Vibrant. They're each one of them has so much character. I think the blackberry one is my favorite.
Yeah.
But that's just because I like blackberries.
Me too.
What's your favorite medium to work in?
The one I'm working in at the moment, I think.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, I love making three-dimensional things because you have that tactile connection. But mostly I paint. I wanted to watercolor for 20 years before I retired. Wow. And when I retired, I got into watercolor, did that for 10 years, pretty much solid, and then just started branching out. And the pandemic really changed things.
How so?
I see the creative process over time as one of inhaling, where you're taking in information and assembling ideas, and then the exhalation, which is the doing of the artwork. And this was a big inhale.
Indeed.
Yes, where I really went inside and stopped producing for a while.
And you were taking some classes over because we were very closely connected via Zoom during the pandemic. You did some classes. How do you think a lot of people, and I'm primarily speaking of myself in this scenario, I took my first class after going to school during the pandemic. And I had put up this very sort of roadblock against it for a long time, thinking that I should figure it out myself. What do you suggest? Because I know you've taken many different classes. What do you suggest to artists to sort of get over that and break out and take a class to learn something new? What's been your experience overall in taking classes?
I have increased my technical skill a great deal. When you hear from an artist who's been painting for 30 or 40 years, and they're so generous to share their knowledge of their tools or their process with you, oh my gosh, it's such a gift. I feel so fortunate, the things I've learned from going to an online class, and I've gone to a realism live convention online, to a watercolor convention, and to a plein air convention. And it's amazing. It's too much information, but I take lots of notes.
You are a very good note taker. Very good note taker. So, how would you describe your style of art?
Ooh, I would say a lot of pieces express a whimsical side. But some are just like, I just want to capture the beauty of the light on the water, or, there's something about that. Or I am really wanting to get away from the real colors of something and into the values, that contrast that makes things really pop. And it was fun to have that Black and White +1 show at City Hall, because you only had black, white, and one color. And the color I chose was cad lemon. And I had a morning picture. And when I got done, it was like I could hear the morning sounds in that space.
That was such a great piece.
It was so fun.
And
my first oil.
Right.
Yeah.
I just... what do you think the difference, now that you've experienced oil, you've done some acrylic, and you've done a lot of watercolor. Of those, which do you like best?
Ooh, well, right now I'm really experimenting with the oil, because that's brand new for me.
Isn't it luscious?
Oh gosh, I
It's
love
so
that.
creamy.
Oh, it is creamy and love it. It's
Yeah.
like Van Gogh time, that impasto. But learning the material is different. But the big difference, and this I love, in watercolor, as your paint dries, the colors get lighter, and to different degrees depending on the pigment. In acrylics, the paints get darker as they dry. But in oils, they are just about exactly the same. And boy, if you want to pinpoint a value or a chroma in the color, the grayness of the color, oil
It's so much better,
It's
huh?
precise. But oh my gosh, it's like oobleck. In watercolor, you could just, wash things off with water. But yes, anything you touch, even if you go back 5 days later and go, delicately touch, it's like it's all over your hands.
Yeah, it kind of depends if you use any mediums in oil that will accelerate that, whether it's, if you work in cold wax, that accelerates it, or you use liquid. Liquid will accelerate that, or there's some fast-drying retardants. That's
Accelerants.
But yeah, if you just stick with the oil, it is... I like when we were talking a few weeks ago, and you said it's the difference of watching paint dry at the end or at the beginning.
Yeah, that's right.
And that has stuck with me, the difference of watercolor and oil. And I think about that, and it still makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious. What type of art do you like to look at? Like what type of art is your maybe favorite genre or style?
Oh gosh, anything by John Singer Sargent just sends me. And I really think there's a difference in seeing art in person than in print. At the Van Gogh, there was an exhibit that had the big portraits, and oh my gosh, I went up and looked at the dress on a woman that he had painted, and the colors in there were so subtle, but just, I don't know, it was glorious. It was like heaven.
Yes.
I wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to have that mastery.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And the first Van Gogh I ever saw, it was like, I get it now. I never got it until I saw one in person.
That is a true story. I have had that same experience. I went down to Southern California to the LACMA and saw my first real Van Gogh in person, and it was the prisoners in a circle in a yard, and I was looking at it, and all of a sudden, like I didn't feel like I was having an experience, but all of a sudden tears just started streaming down my face, and I was like, whoa, what is that? That is an emotional, visceral feeling of joy of seeing and thinking to yourself, this was painted 100 years ago.
And nobody was buying his paintings.
And that was absolutely, it just...
A man before his time.
Very much so. Just such a tragedy, but such an amazing artist.
Yes.
I don't,
Yeah.
It's definitely difficult. So the Singer Sargent, is his paintings the capturing of light that he does so well, like on the portraits of the dresses and the cheeks and different things, or what is it? Is it subject matter? What draws you to?
Well, I think the human form does draw me. But so do beautiful landscapes and abstracts, even lots of things.
So you're a lover of art.
I love it. I just a lover, I think.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah, a lover, not a fighter. But no, his mastery of the human form, which is a study all of itself.
Yeah.
And people were classically trained then, so they
absolutely
had a better chance of knowing that stuff. And then his composition, and the way he makes like the dress will flow into the chair in such a subtle way that your eye will follow around just where he'd like you to go. It's amazing.
It is, no pun, but it is an art to be able to create the kind of compositions that he does so well.
Yes, and it's like the folds of the dress here will be subtly, if you study the painting, pointing up again to the face.
Right.
So you're looking at these things, and then your eye comes around and you're there again, the face.
Yeah. For some, it's almost beating you about the head and shoulders to get you to look in that. But then there are artists like that do just an amazing job of just carrying you through a painting.
Yes.
In a way that some artists just haven't quite got the concept of.
Well, there are very few, you know, the greats, but to master the technical parts of that, the color, the grayness, the chroma, and the value is a big part of that.
Now, do you have a website where you have your art?
I do, but it's all old art right now.
Oh, so you need to update.
Yes, I do.
You need to do that part of being an artist that none of us really like to do.
Oh, gosh, was I talking about myself?
And then, you know, I just updated mine last week, so I'm totally right there with you.
Okay.
Because I hate that part of it, and I think the majority of us hate that sort of business aspect. And
I know artists who won't even sell their work because they just don't want to do it. So they have, you know, a house full of beautiful art, but it doesn't go out into the world.
Well, we need to get them here, the Mac.
Yeah, it's a risk to take what you've made and put it out into the world.
There is that, if you don't sell something, this feeling of rejection, even though it's not really rejection.
It's not. It just means the right person, the one that your work is going to connect with, hasn't come in the door yet.
That's right.
And we knew that from the micro masterpieces, because about half of the ones that were left over from last time sold this time.
Right.
So
different buyers.
Different buyers.
Yeah. It's all about finding that one piece.
Yeah.
Now, where can we find your art?
Well, I have started again being in the City Hall shows.
Okay, good.
So I have some pieces.
City Hall, the art at City Hall in Rancho Cordova.
Yes, quarterly. We have an abstraction show this summer, and I have some pieces to put in that.
Yay!
Yes, if they will be accepted. So
well, only the juror knows that.
That's right. Fingers crossed.
I'm right there with you. And now we have 2 cases, by the way. We have 2 display cases at City Hall, so we can have more 3-dimensional art
Good.
So we've doubled our capacity, and that's really great too.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
So would you ever think about teaching a class?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I've already put together 14 video tutorials that reside in the Learning Library on our website, ranchocordovaarts.org.
Yes, we were very busy during 2020 trying to give people something to do, and we couldn't have workshops.
Yes.
Those are great tutorials, and I got to tell you that my wife says that she loves your voice, and it makes her feel calm.
Oh, I'm so glad.
So you definitely have that voice when teaching that is very calming. So
good. Yeah, in the face of disaster.
Right.
I think my favorite video I made, these are not high production videos.
No, they were not.
But we got them done, and one of them, I forgot to put water in my bucket. So there's a little interlude where I run off and get water.
I
and you can
remember
hear the
that one.
faucet.
I remember that one. Well, you know, we did what we could. We've learned a lot, and it's brought us here.
Yeah.
It's brought us back here when we want you, the public, to learn a little bit more about our local artists, which is the entire purpose of this vlog, and give you a little bit of insight into how local artists think, they create. You can see a number of their pieces, and you can then seek them out. So, Marsha, thank you so much for coming in. We can see your work at City Hall. Oftentimes you can find it here at the MAC, and I have a feeling you'll be updating that website.
Yes. Thank you.
As a point of interest coming up into the next year. Thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next week with another artist. Until then, stay creative.